That's right. You're listening to another episode of the co-main event mixed martial arts podcast. I'm Chad Dundas. That's Ben Folks. We're both longtime MMA journalists, and for the last 13 years, we've been meeting here every week to break down all the action in the wild, weird, and occasionally wonderful world of mixed martial arts. And Ben, over the weekend, we went over there to Doha in Qatar to have UFC Fight Night Tsarukyan versus Hooker. Both of the favorites prevail in the main event and co-main event. Arman Tsarukyan wears Dan Hooker around like a button for a couple of rounds before defeating him via arm triangle choke. And in your co-main, Ian Machado. Gary has a much closer fight with Bilal Muhammad, but ultimately emerges victorious there. We're going to talk about both of those fights, maybe a couple of other odds and ends from this card over the weekend. We got some listener mail coming up later in the show. Let's go ahead and start with the main event, though. I want to get into what Arman Tsarukyan actually did to Dan Hooker in a minute, but we've been taking the piss here of Arman Tsarukyan.
This show with its dilly-dallying brand?
I know people know us for our sober analysis.
Yeah.
But when it comes to Arman Tsarukyan, we've been having a little fun. We've been quoting Tim Robinson's I Think You Should Leave when we look at Arman Tsarukyan and we say, you get why it can't be you, right, Trollboy? Because he's been, in some ways, the unsung contender in this lightweight division. Had one opportunity that didn't come through for him at the title, but he's not the most marketable guy. He's not the most popular guy. He's not a guy that really gives you much to hang your hat on. He doesn't have a gimmick. Let's just say.
What? Honestly, increasingly to the extent that he might have a gimmick, is his gimmick being kind of a dick?
Well, here's the question I was going to ask you, right? So he goes out there this weekend in the purple trunks and he beats the shit out of Dan Hooker. And I started to think, could it be you, Trollboy? Could it be you? And then he's getting into it with Ilia Topuria. He's calling out Ilia Topuria after the fight. They're on social media going after each other. Basically, Arman Tsarukyan is saying, don't take easy fight. Don't make easy fight, he said, in reference, I believe, to Paddy Pimblett and a potential matchup between him and Ilia Topuria. And I started to wonder to myself, could Trollboy force Ilia Topuria to fight him basically the old-fashioned way in this world where we're always looking for the promotable guy, we're always looking for the personalities for the big money fight? Could Arman Tsarukyan put Ilia Topuria in the position where Topuria basically has to fight him just by being really fucking good?
Yeah, I mean, I think that we always acknowledge that possibility existed out there on the periphery. It's amazing to me the extent to which Arman Tsarukyan for the longest time came off as thoroughly unlikable to a lot of the fan base, and yet for most of that time, it was thoroughly unlikable, not in a useful way, promotionally. Because it was just kind of, here's this guy, he's pretty good. We don't have any strong feelings about him. We don't even think about him when he's not around. He had a title shot lined up. He fucked it up when his back went out on him and he had to pull out. And we went, okay, forget this guy. We're moving on. Then he shows up here to the weigh-ins, headbutts Dan Hooker, which I got to point out, he headbutts him at the weigh-ins, then headbutts him again in the fight, in the same spot, basically. And it's like it causes immediately like a huge lump to develop on Dan Hooker's forehead. Now, I'm not saying by any means that's why Dan Hooker didn't win this fight. He didn't win because Arman Tsarukyan was clearly a lot better than he was, but that didn't help. You headbutt the guy once before the fight. Next day, you headbutt him in the fight in that exact same spot. And you could tell he was feeling it after that. So that was where I started to be. And especially where we start to get a little bit more of a glimpse of Arman Tsarukyan's life, where he's like out there flying on private jets. He's showing up to Ariel's show with his fancy ass watch. And Ariel's like, what? Where does this money come from? And he's like, oh, my father is, he's in construction, which maybe it's just the kid in me who saw Goodfellas at an impressionable age. When somebody shows up with a whole bunch of unexplained wealth and just says, oh, I'm in construction, I kind of go, are you? What aspect of it? Is it the digging ditches to lay down the plumbing? I don't know if it is, man. That kind of thing. Like, and also it's like Ariel starts asking him about this, just gently probing it, where he's just like, so your family's in construction? What, did they just fucking kill it in construction? Like, what happened? And then pretty soon, after like a couple minutes later, Arman's like, oh, gotta go, off the phone. Stuff like that. I think people are getting a look at the guy and being like, we don't know if we like this guy, but you can work with that. If we don't
spoiled
like you,
brat is what you're saying.
Spoiled brat who was also good at fighting.
Yeah.
If you can get us to feel some kind of way about you, that's the whole game. Not everybody needs to be a superstar. Not everybody needs to be the guy people want to have posters up in the room of. Some of it could just be people seeing you, getting used to you, learning about your whole shit, and going, fuck this guy. I hope Ilia Topuria knocks his ass out. If you can get there, then you have something.
Yeah.
And he's kind of getting there a little bit. Got there a little bit with this weekend. And it also didn't seem like he was necessarily trying for that. It just seemed like it flowed naturally.
Well, and that's the best kind of gimmick, right?
Right. The Josh Koscheck ass shit.
Wow. Deep cuts in here this week. He's also, as you mentioned, very good. 10 fights now in the UFC, or actually 12 fights. He's won 10. One was a loss to Islam Makhachev in his promotional debut. The other one, as we know, that loss to Mateusz Gamrot. That did he though? Did he? So let me ask you this: if tomorrow they announced Ilia Topuria against Paddy Pimblett, that's the fight they made, wouldn't you kind of be like, that sucks? Wouldn't you? Just like a little bit. Whereas before this, I would have told you that's what we're doing because Arman Tsarukyan is a nobody. But now if they book that fight, my attitude honestly would be like, really, Ilya? Really? This is what we're doing? I feel like Arman Tsarukyan is starting to paint him into a corner a little bit here.
You would be operating under the assumption you're saying that it was Ilia Topuria's choosing.
Well, Ilia Topuria can say no if he wants to, I would assume, at this point.
Yeah, I could see from the UFC standpoint a calculation where they go, Ilia Topuria looks like he could be an international superstar. Arman Tsarukyan seems like kind of a dick that could hold down the lightweight title for a while.
Yeah.
Maybe we got to get there eventually, but maybe it doesn't have to be until after we give Paramount a big Ilia Topuria versus Paddy Pimblett main event. That would probably draw more viewers, probably get people more excited. I think you're right that there would be a outcry from the hardcore fans a little bit where we'd be like, well, come on, how did you just skip over number 1 and reach all the way down to number 5? And it was a number 5 where people went, really? How did he get there? Yeah. So
I mean, I guess I should point out, if you're the UFC, you obviously want to do Ilia Topuria against Paddy Pimblett. That's the promotable fight. But 10 days ago, I would have thought Arman Tsarukyan in many ways had already fucked up his chance with his fight week back injury. And now I'm sitting here thinking, if you're Ilia Topuria, you don't want to get into a Jon Jones situation. You don't want people start looking askance out the corner of their eye, being like, really? This guy going to fight Paddy Pimblett? Not going to fight Arman Tsarukyan?
I gotta say, for future reference, when you refer to somebody getting in a Jon Jones situation, you need to be a lot more specific, because I was like hitting a pregnant lady with his car. I don't know.
Just wrestling Hamza Chimaev in the streets is what I was referring to.
Holding hands with
shooting his gun, shooting
off,
his gun off outside the strip club. That's what I meant.
You're talking about a Jon Jones situation. I'm saying monetizing his amazing brand he's built. I don't like
chasing off prowlers with your shotgun. That's what I meant.
This is what I'm saying. There could be just so many different Jon Jones type situations.
Have Dana White go on a call and call you a fucking sport killer.
Wow. We want to talk about deep cuts. That's a deep cut right there. Yeah, I mean, I think a lot will depend on what the UFC is trying to do here with the lightweight title. Are they in the situation now where we're in the post pay-per-view world starting 2026? We don't really give a fuck. Put 1 versus 2, whatever, and let's go on and let the chips fall where they may. Or are they going, Paramount needs subscribers? Who can we drive subscribers with? Ilya is a big star. Paddy Pimblett has a lot of ability to get some attention for a fight. Let's say that. He is much better in that regard than Arman Tsarukyan is. You watch Arman Tsarukyan in any of these interviews, man, and you're just like, God, how do you manage to be unlikable but also boring? Like, you're just totally uninteresting as a human being. Paddy Pimblett is kind of the opposite. Not nearly as good a fighter, gonna give you a lot more interest and excitement prior to the bell. So I could see the UFC making that calculation, saying, we could always do Arman later. What's he gonna do? We skip over him and we do Paddy Pimblett. But Arman, he can complain about it, but we could always just be like, we still feel burnt from the last time we gave him a title fight. Make him wait a little bit. I could see that being the calculation for the UFC, or I could also see them being like, yeah, we don't really care that much anymore. Let's just go ahead and make these fights. I could also see a third situation where we pick out a date on the calendar and we just call around and see who says yes first.
Yeah.
That's been known to happen.
For sure. More and more all the time. I guess it remains to be seen if that is still going to be the order of things in the Paramount era, especially when we're talking about potential pay-per-view main events. Just saying, he looked damn good, man. He went out there, as you mentioned, he did kind of torpedo Dan Hooker under the eye with the top of his head, which, that's maybe that's not the most sporting thing to do. It didn't seem like he did it on purpose.
Yeah, he didn't. I don't think he went out there being like, I'm going to headbutt this guy right there. But it wasn't. We tend to use the phrase clash of heads sometimes.
Yeah.
And there are times when it is truly just a clash of heads. Two guys moving their heads in a way that makes sense, and they collide together. This was Dan Hooker's head staying still, and Arman Tsarukyan leading with his, as he's coming in there to throw punches and looking for takedowns and stuff. But it was him who hit his head against Dan Hooker's head.
Yeah, that is a fact.
And that is the thing, too, where it's like, even when they're showing the replay of it and you have Michael Bisping being like, totally unintentional. And it's just like, we need to strike that word from the vocabulary for all UFC commentary. Because it's like, you mean he didn't set out to go, here I come. I'm going to smash this guy right in the spot where I definitely intentionally headbutted him yesterday. Like, do we need him to twist his mustache and be like, mwahaha, right before he does it? And that's where I think that in terms of how we approach fouls just in general, and maybe we'll get into this in listener mail, we need a paradigm shift. I'm hoping for a paradigm shift in 2026, Jed.
Yeah. That said, comprehensive beatdown of Dan Hooker, cracking him hard on the feet, taking him down basically at will, snatching singles way out in the middle of the cage, getting on top, relentless pressure, some nasty elbows, man. Just like you can imagine getting hit with one of those elbows and wanting to go home like right away. And when he's not elbowing him, just kind of grinding his elbow into his face.
That's exactly what I was going to say. Even when he's not landing elbow strikes, he's just making sure you always feel the sharpest bone in his arm, just somewhere on the tender parts of your face. And that just seems like it sucked. You're watching him stuck down there and you're just like, oh man, oh Danny. You know,
and obviously the thing that started the avalanche was the knee right to the middle of the head area that chefed up a hematoma that kind of made Dan Hooker look like an alien race on Star Trek.
Yeah.
On Star Trek, they would always be like, what are we going to do with this alien race? And they would be like, I don't know, maybe something fucked up with their forehead. Maybe they could have a different looking forehead than human beings.
They did like to do some forehead shit. I think that maybe we were working with a budget, makeup wise, and so just adding some stuff onto the forehead. That's a way you can always go. Did you catch Dan Hooker's take after the fight?
Well, I saw him see himself on the big screen and act like it was the most hilarious thing he had ever seen, that his face was all fucked up. Are you talking about the video that he cut
Yes.
after, where he's sitting at the table and
We're
he's
having some
basically like,
beers.
yeah, he's basically like, sometimes you have to be honest that you're not going to win the title, but now I'm just here to cause chaos and ruin as many people's dreams as possible. Is that what you're talking about?
Yes, where
Okay.
basically Dan Hooker announces his intention to go on a spite tour. If I can't have nice things, then no one can. And I gotta say, this is how you stay relevant in a packed division crowded with a lot of talent. A guy like Dan Hooker, where for one thing, we're not used to this level of self-awareness.
Yeah.
To the extent that he really believes what he's saying. They would just be like, well, that was it. That was my chance to get close to a title shot. Didn't happen. So let me face facts here. I don't have enough time left on the clock to climb back up here and win those fights. So, like, this is the kind of thing, so few fighters are capable of this. And I remember doing a story once about how much fighters hate the term gatekeeper. And even though we've seen some good ass fighters who were essentially gatekeepers.
Yeah.
And gatekeeper is a necessary role kind of in combat sports. It's the guy you have to beat to prove that you are worthy of being right there at the top. And so it's like, you can't be a gatekeeper and not be good. You know,
Yeah.
journeyman suggests like, you're just kind of hanging around and you've been in a lot of fights and you're not going anywhere, but you're a warm body. Gatekeepers are just like, to beat you really means something. It means the guy is ready for a title shot. And yet they hate it. Fighters hate being called a gatekeeper. And I remember one of the coaches explained to me where he was like, it's not so much that they hate the idea of that role. They hate that you're saying to them, this is as high as you will ever rise. Like if you're the gatekeeper, we've basically, the unstated part of that is you will never be champion. You are the guy other people beat to prove they are ready to go become champion. And to see Dan Hooker be able to embrace this in like a funny way, a self-deprecating way, but also a way that grants a new narrative to what remains of his career, this next step of his career, where he's basically saying like, my goal now is to ruin other people's dreams. And to be like Dan Hooker, the dream wrecker, is kind of a like, that's a role he could work with. That gives us some kind of investment. And it's frankly the kind of shit that almost no fighters are able to do. To sort of like roll with it in that sense, to not take themselves overly seriously, to not just like keep insisting, hey, like Leon Edwards, you know, the guy was just like, the best is yet to come. I'm gonna get my hands back on this belt. And everybody else is like, no, you aren't. You aren't. We're pretty sure of that, man. You are not. And have Dan Hooker come on and show you a different way to do it. It's refreshing.
I agree. Yeah, because it gets a little embarrassing when people, you know, these guys way down the road thinking, oh, it's still a couple wins, you know,
right back in it,
right back in the hunt. So it is a little bit refreshing to see the acceptance of that. And I agree with you, putting a little bit of a different spin on it.
I also like him telling Moicano, hey, we both suck. So we might as well fight each other. You know, I just got my ass kicked. You got your ass kicked. Like we both fought a couple of top guys in the division and got just absolutely washed. So let's see who's the best of the two of us who suck. Like that's, you know what? That's a guy who knows how to just like find a new life for himself in the UFC as soon as the old one ended.
I feel like we've been learning a lot about Dan Hooker in the last few years here. The kind of guy who's going to hold no weight class, one limit or 1 minute, basically bar brawling ass fights in his backyard. Going to get a tattoo of a giant skull with some swords and battle axes through it in the middle of his chest. Now he's just going to, you know, he's going to become the dream wrecker.
There's way worse ways you could go.
I have seen worse roles.
Yeah.
Remember, you're listening to the Co-Main Event podcast proper. This show drops every Tuesday afternoon for free in your timelines and your podcast libraries. But if you want even more of the Co-Main Event, you can find Ben Folks and myself all week over on Patreon. Hit us up at patreon.com/co-main event. Get loads of extra audio and video content, as well as access to our official Discord message board where they're talking about fights and a lot of other stuff literally all the time. We'd love it if you would join us over there. Another way you can support the show is by going to co-mainevent.com and checking out our merchandise shop. We got t-shirts, we got hats, we got hoodies, we got lots more. Stop by and pick up our best-selling Daddest Man on the Planet coffee mug. You know, this actually reminds me, man, I was thinking about this the other day. It's Thanksgiving week. We are rolling into Thanksgiving on Thursday. But honestly, it's time to start thinking about Christmas.
Yeah.
When it comes to ordering this shit, because if you have a dad figure in your life of any variety, if you know a dad, the daddest man on the planet, either coffee mug or t-shirt, it's frankly the perfect gift. But we've learned this the past few years kind of the hard way. If you wait until mid-December to try to start ordering this shit, the fine people who handle fulfillment for the Co-Main Event merchandise shop, they're going to get backed up, man. This happens every year. Yeah. So
it's a team of squirrels down in a warehouse trying to get this stuff in boxes and send it off to fucking Australia. So you want to think ahead. And you know, the daddest man on the planet gear, you know who it's absolutely perfect for? A father-in-law type figure. Somebody like that where, you know, we don't know each other super well, maybe. We're not getting each other like fancy gifts or anything. But, you know, you want to be like, I see you. Your contributions in the realm of fatherhood have been noted and appreciated. Here you go. Here's something. You imagine the look on his face. He opens it up, sees daddest man on the planet. What? Me? Oh, hell. You know what? You're in golden then. You're in the cake. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, I don't actually, but it sounds good to be in the cake. Just go to our website, comainevent.com, click the link at the top of the page that says shop. As always, we partner with our friend Johnny Ashcroft on the shop. He's a graphic designer from Portland, Oregon. We can't recommend him highly enough for all your design needs. Hit him up at studiosuperconductor.com or on Instagram at studiosuperconductor. Don't wait. Go get the presents, the daddest man on the planet stuff now, so you don't miss out. Right about now, like we always do about this time, let's do a little bit of listener mail.
Listener mail.
First piece of listener mail this week comes to us from Curtis Bouchard, who writes, imagine you are tasked with matchmaking an all welterweight main card with the next title fight in the main event and top contender fight in the co-main. Assuming everyone is healthy, who should fight who? And this band obviously is a pertinent question, considering that Ian Gary just went out there over the weekend and defeated the former champion Bilal Muhammad via unanimous decision. Although, honestly, a fight that was probably closer than 2 30-27s and 1 29-28 on the cards from the judges, but reinvigorates Ian Gary in some ways as a top contender here to get a win over Bilal Muhammad. Obviously, you have the brand new champion at 170 pounds, the number one pound for pound fighter in the world, Islam Makhachev, and you have a handful of top contenders now kind of jockeying for position in that top 5, top 6. I guess I'll ask you how you want to put it together to specifically answer this question. But I guess maybe the most pertinent question here is, what do you do with Ian Gary? Where does Ian Gary land in this mix for you?
I'll tell you one thing I agree wholeheartedly with Ian Gary about was when he went on Ariel's show yesterday and was like, I cannot even believe I'm hearing the name Kamaru Usman in this conversation.
Yeah.
100% agree, Ian Gary. But I don't know how that fucking happened.
Well, we're hearing it because that's the guy Islam Makhachev started talking about.
That don't make no sense at all.
I know.
At all. So
I know. Don't make no sense.
So I was looking at the rankings today, the updated rankings over on the UFC's website. It's interesting. There's some interesting stuff going on because in light of his win over Bilal, Ian Machado Gary has jumped 4 spots to number 2, putting him right behind Jack Della Maddalena, which I know you hate when the champion just goes to number 1,
We
no
got to
matter
stop
what.
doing that. We got to stop doing that.
Behind him, behind Ian Gary, is Shavkat, that boy good Rachmanov, who went up a spot despite the fact that he ain't fought in nearly a year, not since December 2024 when he beat Ian Gary via decision. So he benefited from Bilal dropping 3 spots, basically. Michael Morales, who just won last week, he dropped a spot. He just won. Just looked fucking good. Just dropped a spot. Carlos Prates, who also won just, at the last pay-per-view, UFC 322, he also dropped a spot. He's at 6 behind Bilal Muhammad. So, there's some movement. There's a movement going on there. I'm kind of shocked that all those people were moving around. Nobody wanted to move Jack Della Maddalena out of the top spot. For me, if we're dealing with a perfect world where timing is not an issue, injuries are not an issue, nobody has to sit out for Ramadan, any of that kind of stuff, I would like to see the main event, Islam and Shavkat, co-main event, Ian Gary, Michael Morales. Give me that. Yeah. Somebody gets hurt, we can mix it up. There's a consolation prize anywhere in there that'll be acceptable, and it gives you somewhere to go, because it's like, regardless of who wins the title fight, the winner of Ian Gary and Michael Morales would unquestionably be next in line for a title, even if we continue to not be terribly impressed with the way Ian Gary is winning some of these fights. If he beats somebody like Michael Morales, we'd still have to say at this point, all right, God damn it, you're next.
Yeah. I think you're right. If we were retooling these rankings, and again, as you said, man, we got to stop just having the guy who just lost the title remain as number 1 contender, because what's the utility in that? Even if you think it's right, even if you think Jack Della Maddalena actually is the second best welterweight in the world, which at this point I feel like is questionable to begin with, even if you believe that, these rankings are a tool, man. We can all look around and admit that, right? We've all seen situations where maybe the UFC rankings don't actually coincide with who we think is probably the best. This is a tool to figure stuff out, to figure out number 1 contenders, et cetera, et cetera. And Jack Della Maddalena, let's be honest, would have a lot of work to do to get back to a title shot or number 1 contender status. So if you're retooling these rankings, I think you got to go Shavkat 1, probably Gary 2, I guess, Michael Morales 3. Then you might want to drop Jack Della Maddalena in there at 4. I would be okay with that. But I like your matchups. I also go Shavkat versus Makhachev and Ian Gary against Michael Morales. How you mentioned how Ian Gary is winning these fights, though.
Mm-hmm.
He talks a great game. Seems like he succeeds in ginning up a lot of excitement in and around his name. But I kind of feel like Ian Gary is going to go out there and have a close fight with you no matter who you are. Yeah. Like, no matter how good you are, no matter if you're kind of a mid-range person, Ian Gary is going to figure out a way to have a close fight with you. And granted, we said this before the fight, it's kind of the one characteristic that a lot of people know about Bilal Muhammad. He's very durable. He is another guy who can be competitive with anybody, and it is very hard to have a fight with him where you come out looking really, really good. But this is just another instance where I came away. I thought Ian Gary looked great. He looked fine. He got the win. I don't have an argument with it. I think that he won the fight. It was another fight where I looked at it and I was like, the 10-point must system is kind of a blunt tool for accurately reflecting what happened in an MMA fight. But I think Ian Gary won it. But at the same time, I was just like, did it make me super excited to see Ian Gary fight his next fight for the title? Not totally.
Yeah. And especially because he came into this fight being like, I got to get a finish here. I know the criticism of me. I'm going out here. I'm going to finish Bilal Muhammad, all this kind of stuff. And then it was just an Ian Gary fight, largely, where never really came close to a finish. Never really looked like he was throwing the kitchen sink at him trying for a finish. It seemed like he was doing Ian Gary stuff, which is smart because Bilal Muhammad is a tough opponent. And I think I agree with you that it was closer than the scorecards would tell you. I think some of that is because, the judges see some blood on one guy and they tend to go, okay, that guy getting his ass kicked.
Right.
And I think that we came away from this being like, Ian Gary is who we thought he was, but better at it maybe than we gave him credit for, because he can still do it to Bilal Muhammad. As you said, a guy who's tough to look good against. This time last year, we would have probably sat around and being like, Ian Gary beat Bilal Muhammad. I don't think so. And he goes out there, he does it. He continues to show that his shit works. It also just like, I think right now people still go, okay, your shit works on these people. It will not work on Islam Makhachev. Did not work on Shavkat. You did better than we thought, but you still lost, and it wasn't really that big a question mark. So I think it's his personality and his ability to talk up a good game before the fights can kind of make you forget to a point what you see once the bell rings.
Yeah.
But only to a point. I think he is going to need one of those big wins over somebody like on Michael Morales in order to finally get that title shot, because otherwise, the best chance he has right now is that Shavkat has been out too long. Shavkat maybe doesn't want to wait until the other side of Ramadan to wait for Islam Makhachev. Because it's one thing for us to say, fantasy match make it in a world where everybody is chess pieces that can be moved around however we want. That's not the world we live in. Shavkat was on Ariel's show, I think today, talking about how, hey, I would like to fight at this point, like February, March. Doesn't seem like that'll work for Islam because he wants to take Ramadan off. And if he doesn't fight until the summer, Shavkat's like, hey, I realize I might have to get back in there and fight somebody else before then. I'm willing to do it. So he doesn't seem too bothered by it. He seems to feel he has an air of inevitability. Also, don't let any discussion of the UFC rankings go by without me giving you a update that, yes, Tai Tuivasa still ranked number 12 at heavyweight. Did he get a win that we didn't hear about? Nope. Still has 5 losses in a row. Still hasn't won a fight since he knocked out Derek Lewis in 2022. Just saying.
For all we know,
heavyweight rankings update.
For all we know, Tai Tuivasa has won a couple of fights in Dan Hooker's backyard.
And last place you want to see Tai Tuivasa is in Dan Hooker's backyard.
Ian Gary has not finished anyone since May of 2023, when he knocked out Daniel Rodriguez in the first round. His fights since then are Neil Magny, decision. Jeff Neal, split decision. Michael Page, decision. Shavkat Rakhmonov, decision loss, where once again he figured out how to have a close fight. Carlos Prates, decision. Bilal Muhammad, decision. Once again, I just feel like the myth is doesn't meet up with reality with Ian Gary, and I would love it if it would. It doesn't seem like it is right now. Next question this week comes to us from Eric in Toronto, who wrote in to say, we all know about counter striking and anti-wrestling, but is pretending you got poked in the eye to get a 5-minute break an example of the dreaded anti-Dundasso? Now, we know Eric in Toronto. He's a good guy. So I'm going to choose not to see this as a casting aspersions at Bilal Muhammad, and maybe we are just saying this apropos of nothing. Because it was clear that Bilal Muhammad did get poked in the eye at least one time by Ian Gary. Yeah. And the replay on the second one, kind of inconclusive. Ian Gary was saying it was a knuckle. You couldn't really see on the replay. Once again, I don't sometimes know how we expect MMA refs to make these calls in real time. And, when you watch the replay, Ian Gary is definitely reaching with both hands. It is more of a push than a punch, and the fingers on the other hand are clearly extended. So I don't know. Now, in theory, acting like you got poked in the eye, it might get you a break. It might get you a short break, but I think the negatives outweigh the positives, honestly, in the way that this sport is both officiated and how fans look at you. It actually seemed like in this fight, fans were actually booing the eye poker. It looked like they were booing the actual alleged or actual eye poke from Ian Gary, which is normally, it's a nice turnaround from how things normally go, because normally people are booing and calling you a pussy because everybody's motivated to get the fight going again. No one wants to sit there and watch you stand around for 5 minutes. So I don't know, man. I guess if you really need a break, you might fake the eye poke just to stand around for a few minutes, but the other guy's not losing a point.
Here's my argument to that. If you really need a break, poke him in his eye.
Okay, yeah. There you go.
Kick him in his balls. That'll get you a break. It'll get you at least a little bit of a break. Plus, again, the whole principle of Dundasso, that your odds of being punished in any way for it, pretty minimal, especially if you've already gotten poked in the eye earlier in the fight. Bilal Muhammad needed a break. Should have just poked Ian Gary in the eye. They didn't take a point away when he poked you in the eye. They're not going to take a point away if you turn around and poke him in the eye a little bit later. So you'd be all right, and you'll catch a little bit of a breather. It also, you're right, it is a risky move, because how many times have we seen somebody react as if, oh shit, I got poked in the eye. The referee says fight on, or just doesn't say anything. And then next thing you know, the guys hit you with a 3-piece while you're standing there squinting, holding onto your eye, waiting for time to be called. Like, that shit can happen too. So if you're to me, the best answer to Dundasso is more Dundasso, not anti-Dundasso. Yeah.
Yeah. Next question this week comes to us from Wayne Dwops. See what he did there?
Kind of like raindrops, but yeah.
First name Wayne Dwops. Wayne Dwops. Clever. Wayne Dwops writes, man, it just feels weird to say that. Yeah. Wayne Dwops. Man, Waldo Cortez Acosta, he's 5 fights in for this year and still wants another. Made light work of Shamil Gaziev. Who's next? Perhaps Alexander Volkov. This is your guy, Ben. This is your guy, Waldo Cortez Acosta. Now, I'm going to let you talk about your guy, but we do need to acknowledge Shamil Gaziev looks like Bald Bull.
From the Mike Tyson game, yeah.
Yes, from Mike Tyson's Punch-Out. He looks like the real world personification of Bald Bull.
I think Bald Bull just went mustache, though, right? Not the Abe Lincoln beard.
Still, I look at that guy and I think, if we're casting a live action Mike Tyson's Punch-Out movie, which
we should,
would watch, you couldn't do much better for Bald Bull than Shamil Gaziev. And in fact, maybe that's where he went wrong in this fight. He should have done the thing where he backs up and like bounds across the cage and then hits you with a huge uppercut.
He always got there a lot faster than you thought he was going to.
I know.
Yeah, you'd see him do the thing where he backs up and you'd be like, all right, here it comes. I'm ready for it. And then the next thing you know, he's up in your grill just dropping you. I like how you phrase that. You acted like you had to bring up something like, okay, obviously let's just get it all out here. Like, we can't move forward with this discussion until we
must acknowledge the elephant in the room.
As we have long said, and it's still very true, there are at least 2 different heavyweight divisions. Waldo Cortez Acosta has been in the other heavyweight division. He is not up there in the conversation where we're like, Tom Aspinall, Cyril Gane, maybe Jon Jones if he comes back and has a change of heart. That other heavyweight division has shrunk. It's basically 2 guys now, and it's not because these other guys haven't been given opportunities either. We keep giving them chances. They keep fucking it up. And Waldo Cortez Acosta comes along, has one controversial fight that's just weird enough to get our notice, then bounces right back in there 3 weeks later, shows up on short notice and knock out Shamil Gaziev. It don't take that much. Doesn't take that much. If you can just do a couple little things, get us to remember your name, you might be on your way, just because who else we got? Who the fuck else do we got to choose from? So I don't know. He jumped up to number 5 in the rankings now, ahead of Jailton Almeida. I could see him be one of these guys up in front of him, beat a Curtis Blaze, something like, I don't know, whatever we could think of for him to do at this point. He already lost that decision to Sergey Pavlovich. So that's one of the only guys up there ahead of him. But I don't know. You're at this point at heavyweight, you need to stay ready, keep the phone charged, and wait for the UFC to just kind of like throw up their hands and be like, all right, fine, Waldo Cortez Acosta, he's next, because that moment could come. That moment could come at any time.
I should point out that Wayne Dwops also writes, last week you expressed the need for a pirate gimmick in the UFC. I'm aware it's a dig at Tom Aspinall, but he already has the eye patch. Can Acosta be convinced to carry a pet parrot, wear some worn out clothes, and go arg every time he lands a punch? Our salsa pirate is on a roll, you guys. Now, see, I don't think he needs it. I think maybe a couple months ago, Waldo Acosta Cortez could have been the pirate. Now he's trying to do it the old fashioned way, Ben. He's trying to fight his way out of the second heavyweight division and into the first heavyweight division. And if you would have asked me without looking at his record, I would never have come up with the notion that he has fought 5 times in 2025.
It's a lot for a heavyweight. Also, though, I will say again, as I saw people praising on social media, they're like, how about this guy, Waldo Cortez Acosta, 3-week turnaround, makes this like 14-hour flight or whatever it is to go over there on extremely short notice, makes 265. I'm like, okay, I'll give you credit for all the other stuff. What we're not going to do is start really giving guys a whole lot of attention and respect for making 265 pounds. We're not going to do that. Not unless they're fucking 6'8". It's heavyweight. God damn it. You can make 265. You look at the guy's frame when he gets up on the scale. It's not exactly look like, Aspen Ladd trembling on there, looking like if she doesn't get some sustenance in the next 5 minutes, she's going to drop dead. He looked fine. 265.
Next question this week comes to us from Miles Jury's Sword, who writes in to say, Rico Verhoeven, long reigning heavyweight champion of Glory, has said goodbye to Glory and seems to be in talks with the UFC. While he claims that he has a ground game, it's his striking that makes him stand out. The Dutch love themselves some kickboxing, and the recent resurgence in popularity of the sport is largely due to Rico and his rivalry with Badr Hari. Will he become the UFC heavyweight champion? Probably not. Is he too old to make the switch? Very likely. Should they match him up with the likes of Gane, Volkov, and Acosta? Oh, yes, please. Look, he might talk to the UFC just to leverage a better boxing deal, but a man can dream. Regards from below sea level. How we done this before, right?
Yeah, I mean...
Haven't we basically done this?
But remember my previous conversation about what the fuck is going on in some of these divisions where you can just show up, do a little bit of anything, and we'll get excited about you?
Yeah.
And we've seen it happen a couple ways, right? Like Alex Pereira comes over from kickboxing, chases down Israel Adesanya, and then becomes a huge star, even though he's like in his late 30s. We also saw, remember Gokhan Saki?
Yeah, that's the one I'm thinking of. I feel like I got burnt. I got burnt by Gokhan Saki, and I'm still, feeling a little hurt over it. I'm not sure I'm ready to welcome another big kickboxer into my life who's coming to the UFC late in his career.
I would think, I've heard Ariel saying like, hey, the UFC is in this conversation. He's free to sign anywhere right away. And yet I would think if you're the PFL, here's your opportunity. Here's your chance to sign somebody who's big that you could match up with Francis Ngannou and have yourself a legitimately big fight. And not the kind of fight where it's Francis Ngannou against somebody we found for Francis Ngannou to fight. Like Francis Ngannou against a guy who is a star in his own right, in his own sport, and especially in his own region of the world. Like that would be a big, big fight for you. And the way you could make that pitch to somebody like Rico Verhoeven is to go to him and be like, listen, if the UFC, you know what they're going to want to do. They're not going to want to sign you for 1 or 2 fights. They're going to want to sign you for a 6-fight deal so that they can lock you down. You can't do shit else. They're going to give you $2,500 in your outfitting pay for putting on the Venom shorts that look the same as everybody else's. You don't need that. You've earned more than that. Like you are a star. You bring a lot to the table. They're just going to treat you like another guy. And they're really going to want a lot of control over whatever happens next in the next few years of your career. We'll give you a deal to come in here and do this fight with Francis Ngannou, and then we'll talk after that. You know, like that's an opportunity for you to use the ways that you are different from the UFC, that you don't demand so much control over the fighter. Like, you don't have to sign away your image likeness, Rico. We're not going to do that to you. Come on in here. Let's do a big fight. Let's see how it goes. Because those are the pitches you got to start making if you're the PFL and you want to do anything with Big Fran.
I think that's a great idea. I do also have to point out, Rico Verhoeven, he has an MMA win. He defeated Viktor Bogutziki in Romanian Extreme Fighting 20 in 2015.
Oh, yeah. I think we all remember where we were when that one happened.
I'm also looking at his Wikipedia page. He's got some listings for his filmography.
Okay.
Did you know he was in Black Lotus in 2023? It was a pretty big show back then.
I don't know what Black Lotus is.
It was a show on HBO everybody loved.
Are you thinking of White Lotus?
Yes. Yes, I am.
Okay.
I don't know what Black Lotus is, actually. But I know that Rico Verhoeven played Mateo Donner in that film.
Yeah, because White Lotus had a different vibe. Not a vibe where, like, let's go get a Dutch kickboxer to come.
Well, he could be there for comic relief, for all I know.
Black Lotus, according to IMDb, I mean, Rico's up here on the poster, so
okay. Well, that
did have a role.
Yeah.
An ex-special forces operative wages a one-man war through the streets of Amsterdam to rescue his friend's daughter from the local crime syndicate. Taken is what it sounds like we're doing. Taken.
Well, he was also in Den of Thieves 2 Pantera.
Right. Of course he was.
He was in Kickboxer Retaliation.
Retaliation, huh?
Mm-hmm. He played Moss.
We're just saying words. Just saying words.
Also listed in his filmography is Hot Boxing with Mike Tyson, where he appeared as himself, which I assume is just a podcast, right?
I mean, I don't think it was a play, if that's what you're asking.
I'm just saying we can't be putting
an opera called Hot Boxing with Mike Tyson.
You can't put podcast appearances on your filmography, dude. Can't do that. That's against the rules.
Yeah, it ought to be.
We got a long one here from Peter Ravine, who wrote in to say, we had the fights at our gym on Saturday. Now, as Peter, we had the fights on at our gym on Saturday. The main event came on shortly after Muay Thai class was over. During the hype video for Tsarukyan, they were making fun of the bridging drill he was doing, where he was running his feet and hip heisting with his head planted. Remember, he was doing this that week. He hurt his back also. There was rumors that he had hurt his back showing off doing this drill for Nina Drama. Remember that?
Trying to get the girls to think he's cool.
Right. So he's doing this bridging drill. Peter Ravine writes, then hilariously in that context, he performed that technique twice to escape guillotines. It always amazes me and amuses the arrogance of the strikers who have never been manhandled and strangled by a superior grappler. I coach wrestling and competed some at the international level. My rudest awakening to the adage, quote, there's levels to this, was when I was a low seed and had a match against a Russian opponent. The iron will and non-empathetic pressure he applied was incredible. I love the term non-empathetic pressure.
The guy in his wrestling match, he showed a real lack of empathy toward me.
My strategy was always to mentally break opponents. Instead, he utterly broke me. Then I watched him get whipped by one of his countrymen. Also, the showers at the training facility were ice cold and Spartan. Those guys weren't phased a bit. I realized neither me nor the guys I was training with stateside could ever replicate or catch up to that. At that time, American wrestlers started dominating MMA, but were still behind in international wrestling. A prediction I kept spouting was that when those Eastern European guys catch on and get the resources, we are in trouble. Well, he was certainly right about that. So I suppose the question is, do y'all believe the Eastern European and Russian freestyle wrestling is the best MMA base? And if so, how long will the dominance of that pipeline last? Is there a fragment of hope that money and success will soften them some? I mean, you can't discount the dominance at the moment, right? Of the particularly the Dagestanis and the guys from Georgia, chief among them, Merab Dvalishvili. But
I like the suggestion here, and I feel like I've made this comparison recently, but that the hope that money and success will soften them. For one thing, that's a long-term strategy. That's not going to help you if you got to fight this guy in 4 months. But also, what you're describing is the Epic of Gilgamesh. What you're describing is the plot, like Gilgamesh going to find the wild man of the woods, Enkidu, and being like, I know how we'll deal with this guy. He's out here. He's a problem. Guy's an absolute savage. What if we get him laid, though, and give him a silk robe and a nice pillow to sleep on, though? He won't be such a tough guy then. That's basically what you're advocating as a way for people to deal with dudes who are just better wrestlers than they are. I don't know. I don't know about that one as a strategy. I do think, though, the first point that he's making, it is true. I don't think it's just like people who are trained in striking, but it's a lot of people sitting around watching some of these fights, and they just think like, well, you wouldn't be able to do that to me. You wouldn't be able to take me down and just hold me. I wouldn't just lay there. I would do some shit. And then that's just like the kind of ignorance that you can have when you have never experienced what it's like to just be so thoroughly out-grappled and manhandled. And then you realize like, okay, yeah, no, I didn't know what the fuck I was talking about.
I mean, that's literally why the Gracies invented the UFC. Right? So everyone would come in to watch that with their kung fu movie ass backgrounds, and then they would see tiny ass Hoist Gracie in his white pajamas strangling everybody, and they would think, I need to learn this. That's why they started the UFC.
So people would sign up for Gracie Jiu-Jitsu and sign up for a year contract at like $120 a month.
I think there's a lot of factors that go into Eastern European wrestlers kind of dominating many of the weight classes right now. And it's not necessarily Arman Tsarukyan, since we have recently learned that he grew up in a wealthy family. But it seems like not only are the guys we're seeing like lifelong wrestling practitioners, many of whom, by the way, were coached by the same guy. So you have to take that into consideration. But I think there was a lot of struggle, right? A lot of adverse circumstances at home that probably made a lot of these guys think it's this or nothing. And that is a story of combat sports that is age old and, frequently like breeds top contenders.
Those guys will produce a ton of guys who comes out of those gyms who don't go on to become world beaters, and probably a lot of them who never really get that great of a chance to compete because they're always fucking hurting each other. Like if you start with a whole bunch of guys and you just smash everybody until there's only a few left standing and they're the toughest bastards to ever walk the earth, then like, yeah, we're going to remember those tough bastards' names, and we're going to be like, okay, you guys produce some amazing fighters, and we're not going to think about all the other ones that we never heard anything about.
Sure, but their tough bastards are dominating our tough bastards at this point, and isn't some of that because not all of our tough bastards want to be MMA fighters?
Well, maybe some of our tough bastards are also at least a little bit of smart bastards and realize that this is a hard life. It's a hard life, and there's a lot of ways for you to just get endlessly exploited in it.
Many of our tough bastards have other opportunities, I guess, is what I'm saying. But that said, like all of these guys are lifelong ass grapplers, and the ones that we are seeing at the highest level also likely prodigies, right? Because they're the ones who, as you said, have sifted to the top. And that is a very, very, very hard gap to close, right? We're joking about Ian Gary going to Georgia for a few months to learn how to wrestle. And it's sort of like, man, I got news for you. You're not closing the wrestling gap on Islam Makhachev by spending 3 months in Georgia, right? Because he's been doing this shit his entire life. So you've also got that kind of like lifelong prodigy level experience that is putting these guys over the top. But all that said, we see this shit go in cycles, man. If you've been watching this sport for a long time, you have seen cycle after cycle of jiu-jitsu guys to American wrestlers to sprawl and brawl guys to talented strikers to guys fighting with video game styles that we thought using techniques that the original UFC made look fake.
Yeah.
Right now, you got guys out there using those for their fighting styles, and now you've got domination of by wrestlers from the Caucasus regions. So will something come along to take its place? It's very possible.
And imagine Ian Gary goes off to Georgia to learn to wrestle, and 6 weeks later, his family gets like one of those letters home from camp, like, please come pick me up. I hate it here. Everyone is mean to me. And you're just like, Ian, this is for your own good, buddy. You're going to have to stick it out. You'll be glad you did. You're going to be glad you did. When I come pick you up at the end of this day, you won't want to leave. You just got to trust me, buddy.
Last question this week comes to us from Spoony Love from Up Above, who writes, did you guys see the video of Hasbullah and the Rizzler sparring each other in a boxing ring? And dare I say it, for a golden child-like mascot figure, Hasbullah was throwing hands and rocked the 9-year-old. Is the most mythical questions in the most mythical of questions? Who would you like to? No, see, I'm not. Who would you like to have seen them fight in their primes? Gary Coleman, the Leprechaun, Wee Man.
First of all, ain't nobody stand a chance against the Leprechaun. You see that fucking movie? He's got magical fucking powers. He'll get stoned and still whip a dude's ass. We've seen it. Also,
the
Rizzler is that kid, right? Where he was like, I don't know if he's like a TikTok kid or whatever, and he was like his whole family. Like, if this, I did not even know this video exists.
No, I was happier.
Yeah,
I was happier when
I wish I still didn't know
exists.
Whatever is happening with the Rizzler, it's one of those things where everything I've learned about him is against my will, including this. But also, at what point does somebody step in and say whatever is happening there is child abuse?
Well, I don't know who the Rizzler is, so I just had to Google him. It turns out he is actually 9. This is not like a metaphor in this email. He's 9 and Hasbullah is 23.
What are we doing?
Regardless of size, that's a man.
Yeah.
Right? Like, that's an adult. That's a grown adult fighting a 9-year-old. Can't do that.
Yeah. Why are we having those guys do this? Who does it serve? And I'm watching the video now. We're sparring a little bit.
You're watching the fucking video right now? You sick fuck.
For one thing, this is so sad. This is a sad moment. And where, I mean, he gets hit by Hasbullah, but he's still smiling, but he's also in his DoorDash branded t-shirt. Hasbullah is out there wearing a beanie in sparring match, so that's always fun. It just, we don't have to do this. We don't have to live this way. We have a choice. All of us have a choice. We get to decide what kind of society we would like to have. We're not, we have agency. We are choosing poorly right now, just generally. And we got to do better. We just got to do better.
Only podcast on the internet where a guy will go from invoking the Epic of Gilgamesh to watching a video of some child abuse within 3 minutes. Find me another podcast that will give you that.
Here's what I want to know. What do the Rizzler's parents say no to? There's got to be some stuff they turned down, some opportunities for their son that they turned down. What the fuck are those like?
Guys, I don't know, man. I can't tell you. In any case, then on that note.
Yeah. Thanks, Spoony Love from Up Above. I'm sad now.
That is going to do it for listener mail this week. If you have a question, comment, or concern, maybe this was a concern. Maybe we'll file this email from Spoony Love. I have
concerns, yeah.
You know how to get a hold of us. Go to the website, co-mainevent.com, and click the link in the top right-hand corner of the screen that says email the podcast. That'll get you in touch with us. Right now, Conor McGregor was, quote, shown what would have been my death. And now he is posting long screeds on social media about how he has embraced our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. And this just makes me so fucking tired. We'll talk about that right after this. Well, Ben, shout out to MMA Fighting and Alexander K. Lee for breaking out a Conor McGregor breaks silence headline. He's broken his silence. He claims he's undergone psychoactive treatment. Quote, I was shown what would have been my death. Now, maybe in this case, saying that the guy broke his silence is halfway legitimate, since this was his first post on Twitter since October 6th, when he announced, hey, folks online, I'm out of here for a bit. See you again soon! Exclamation point. That was the last we heard of him until this week, where he posted. Am I going to read this? You want me to read this whole thing?
Use your judgment about how much of it you want to read. But I do feel some of it is necessary for us to hear.
Hey, guys, I am back. I was blessed to meet the most forward-thinking doctors from Stanford University and undergo a series of treatments to address trauma. I traveled to Tijuana, Mexico, and underwent ibogaine.
Where the doctors from Stanford they're in Tijuana? I have questions already about how this works.
I underwent treatment at Ambio. Then he goes on to say there's a Netflix documentary about this place that he went. He says, I was shown what would have been my death, how soon it was to be, and how it would have impacted my children. Now, see, this sounds like very close to Dana White's Swami-ass doctor that convinced him to change his life. I was looking down on myself as it happened, and then I was looking out from the coffin. God then came to me in the Holy Trinity. He is mighty. Jesus, his child, Mary, his mother, the archangels, all present in heaven. I was shown the light. Jesus descended from the white marble steps of heaven and anointed me with a crown. Ain't that just some Conor McGregor shit? I was saved. My brain, my heart, my soul healed. I was 36 hours under before I finally rested. When I awoke, I was me again. The most enlightening and enchanting experience I have ever undertaken. This treatment is worth its weight in gold. It's very, very tough, but it absolutely saved my life and in turn saved my family. Thank you all for your inspiration, motivation, encouragement, well wishes, support, and most importantly, for your prayers. They worked. I am a child again, but this time with the knowledge of my adult. To my family, my friends, my fans, my support, my team, baby, we did it. The world is in for a treat. To God, I am yours. Thank you for bestowing upon me this incredible blessing that I take with great care and absolute seriousness. I live my life per your word and nothing more. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Your great grandson, Conor McGregor.
What?
He signs in your great grandson to the part where he was addressing God himself.
Man, there's so much going on there. For one thing, I really want to circle back to I was shown what would have been my death. Because I'm imagining, remember the Oliver Stone movie about the Doors? Val Kilmer stars as Jim Morrison, and he keeps seeing the Indian with his whole ass out. It seems like that's kind of what we're talking about. We're showing you like, here's what your future looks like if you don't change it. And
some Ghost of Christmas Future shit.
Yeah. Yes. That's what we're doing. He is fucking Michael Caine being shown the empty grave by the Muppets and going, Spirit, there must be some way to change this. And they're like, matter of fact, there is. And then you wake up 36 hours later in a hospital in Tijuana and you're the great grandson of God himself. So this to me, like when Conor McGregor kind of first came out, was just like, I've undergone this spiritual awakening and I'm born again and whatever. My first thought was, well, this has become kind of a routine thing for people very credibly accused of sexual assaults, right? Like we saw Russell Brand do it, where he went right from that to like baptizing people in the river in his undies.
And basically like any troubled celebrity, right? This is the most paint by numbers ass shit that you could possibly imagine.
It's like, you can't criticize me. I'm washed in the blood of the Lord and my sins are washed clean. The thing is, all this stuff kind of sounds like, at least for the moment, he believes what he's saying. Are you telling me we'll never again see a video of Conor McGregor punching somebody in a nightclub at 4:00 in the morning or something? We'll never again see any of this stuff, never again hear any of these accusations, that all of that stuff is in the past, that there's like sharp dividing line in Conor McGregor's life that'll be before and after. Because I don't quite believe that.
Nope.
That's very hard for me to imagine. Also, did you see this? This seemed at least somewhat like a procedural thing where he had his lawyers basically hold on to his right to sue. I think it's the Sun, or maybe it's one of the other, maybe it's not the Sun, one of the UK publications, for calling him a rapist. Not necessarily in print, for saying it out loud when he left the courthouse after he was found liable for sexual assault by a jury of his peers in Ireland. And they were like, Conor McGregor, you're a rapist. How do you feel about that? And he wants to hold on to at least the capacity to be able to sue them. And I realize that this is kind of a thing. They don't want the statute of limitations or whatever to run out. They want to have this ability in case he decides he wants to sue them later on. But my man, do you realize what you are doing here is managing to keep this in the news? It was almost like you've managed to keep it in the news so long. It happened like a year ago. You were going to appeal with some witnesses, and then they got brought up on perjury charges because basically the court was like, we think that they are lying for you. Then you do this. You're just like, you're reminding people over and over again that this happened. And then if you do try to sue them for this, what you might end up doing is making a court of law say, no, actually, it was fine for them to call you a rapist. Like, that's a very real possibility, that you spend more money on lawyers just so that a court will say once again, that's fine. That is a thing you can say about Conor McGregor. Like, that could actually happen. And it just seems like, I don't know, man. Maybe the best thing you could do is just try to do better from here on out. But this doesn't make me feel terribly hopeful that that's what we're seeing.
No, it just seems like the next predictable turn in what is essentially a very cliched fall from grace tragic story about a guy who once was at the top of his sport, right? It's like they all go just like this, man. And very few of them end with the guy healthy, happy, and content with eat, pray, love posters up all over his house and just wearing crucifixes and going to church every Sunday. Very rarely is that how the story ends.
How many of them end with you holding hands with a Chechen dictator? Because on the other side,
is that a segue? Are we segueing?
Another guy who's a big star in this sport and has had his share of, let's say, ups and downs. Jon Jones out there showing up in Dagestan, palling around with Ramzan Kadyrov, monetizing this amazing brand that he has built, wrestling Khamzat Chimaev in the streets, all this kind of stuff. Here, people, you know how Jon Jones will get on Twitter and he will have, like, he will give at times substantive updates on his career and life in response to just randos.
Yeah.
Just randos tweeting him. So, because he's posting these videos of him hanging out with Ramzan Kadyrov. They're at one point, playing around in the clinch, and then Ramzan keeps holding his hand. He keeps holding Jon's hand, and Jon keeps patting it. Be like, okay, all right, we're done with the hand holding, right? And he's like, nope, we're done when I say we're done. Like, it's that kind of a vibe going on. Somebody else, and I can't even tell if they meant this as criticism or not. They respond to one of Jon Jones's tweets about this by saying, real life warlord chopping it up with a couple warriors, fire emoji.
Oh God, what?
And then Jon Jones posts this video of him hanging out there and shot of him hanging out with Ramzan Kadyrov. And he writes, I don't know anything. I don't see anything. All I know is the man's a great host. And then emoji with the mouth zipped shut.
What?
Yeah. Which kind of...
Well, what you're doing is wrong, is what that
implies. That you're just like, hey, he paid me to come over here and he was nice to me, so I ain't saying nothing about him being a bloodthirsty, human torturing dictator. I'm playing it nice. Here's another one where somebody just tweets him and says, "How was Chechnya?" And he replies, "It was awesome. I was invited by the President Kadyrov. I spent a day celebrating his son's 18th birthday. Got to shoot exotic weapons. My favorite was the RPG. Was never served so much food. Ate like a king." Did you eat like a king? Or did you eat like a hired juggler brought in by the king to sit at the king's table to distract from all the people being tortured in the dungeons? He brought you in for his son's birthday. He's just like, I'll bring in Jon Jones. He'll take anybody's money. Doesn't care how awful they are. And you're just like, wow, the food here is really great. They're really nice to me.
Perhaps Jon Jones will be blessed to meet the most forward-thinking doctors from Stanford University to undergo a series of treatments to address trauma.
Man, get shown what would have been your death. He knows he's still going to die, right? Like Conor McGregor.
I don't know.
What would have been my death? There's still going to be a death eventually.
I mean, if anything, props to Conor McGregor for managing to be born again while still holding on to the weirdest possible bullshit that made Conor McGregor from the beginning. Mm-hmm. Like, there's a direct line from the guy who told us that he manifested this shit because he watched the video of The Secret
Didn't read the book, watch the DVD.
to where we are now. Direct line between those two guys.
Also, somebody talks about the Russian hospitality, and Jon says, "I'm signing a major ambassador deal here in Russia. I can't announce yet. Soon I'll be a regular."
Sounds like he just announced it. Can't announce it yet, but I'm just signing a big deal over here in Russia. Sounds like you announced it, Ambassador Jon.
Soon I'll be a regular. You know, you feel like you know what the arcs are sometimes in this sport, and yet I didn't see Jon Jones just fucks off to Russia and is attending a series of feasts with various dictators.
I mean, in MMA, the first question you need to ask is the person who runs it a bad guy? And if the answer to that question is yes, then there's a high probability that some MMA fighters will show up at some point.
Yeah, that's true.
Anyway, that's going to do it this week for the Co-Main Event podcast. We would love to join you over at the Patreon. Even though it is Thanksgiving week, we will have a live chat tomorrow. So jump in for that. Patreon.com/Co-Main Event. We'd love to see you over there. Thanks for the support, everybody. Thanks for listening. We'll talk to you next week. As for right now, we're done. We're through. We're out.
If somebody were to show you what would have been your death, how do you see it going down?
It's just a weird phrasing, weird phraseology of that. I hope when I'm 90 with my head on a soft pillow and holding hands with my one true love.
I got to say, errant kettlebell goes flying through the air in the gym. A noob shows up, can't keep a hold of their kettlebell, thing rockets out of their hand, hits you right in the skull, dunzo.
I mean, that is closer to happening more weeks than you'd like to believe. So I live a life of danger, man. What can I say?